Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Wednesday. We're going to be talking about Anthony Gordon in today's live stream. We're also going to be talking about Angry Birds and the possibility of them extending their current sleeve sponsorship with Everton Football Club. Obviously after we spoke last week about Everton parting ways with Sport Pisa, we spoke about the possibility of maybe a new sleeve shirt sponsorship going into next season. However, a couple of the higher up employees in the company that make Angry Birds have been speaking about the potential to extend the current deal with Everton Football Club, so we'll talk about that. I'm also going to talk about VAR as well. Quite a broad topic, isn't it, really, at the moment. I've spoken about VAR before and why I believe that it's not necessarily VAR's fault that it's not working in this country. It's simply down to two things: the level of refereeing and the level of officiating and the rule book in this country. And I want to just again talk about that, back that point up really, because what we've seen in the last couple of days, last 24 hours, is VAR being used fantastically in a Champions League game yesterday between Bayern Munich and Chelsea. Two occasions of it where it was used exactly how it should be used, and it just shows how, rather than going at VAR week in, week out and ripping the technology and ripping the system down to bits, realistically we should be looking at the culprits, and they are the referees and the officials who are making these wrong decisions week in, week out. But before we go into that topic, before we go into that wormhole, we're going to talk about young Anthony Gordon. And is it time for Anthony Gordon to get his opportunity at Everton Football Club? I want to know all your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. If you're watching live, get your thoughts in the live comments as well, because I think it's a really, really interesting topic. Anthony Gordon's been talking this week. He's had a couple of interviews. He's been talking and he's expressed how he really wants to start playing now, and he believes that it's his time to get in the first team, and that, you know, he wants to make an impact, he wants to be involved, he wants to be in and around. Obviously we haven't seen an awful lot of him. First seen him under Duncan Ferguson. Obviously he brought him in for the cup game, the Carabao Cup game against Leicester at Goodison Park. He played well in that game. He was then given a full half. I think he played the full second half of the following game against West Ham and done quite well in that game as well. He was getting forward, he was using his pace, he was beating his men. I remember him knocking it past Zabaleta, and Zabaleta had to foul him, and he smiled after he fouled him because he pretty much knew he had the better of him. But he was also getting back, he was doing his defensive work, he was, sort of playing that winger role that we've come to see at Everton Football Club, especially out of the likes of Richarlison and Bernard over the last sort of 2 years or so. We've noticed that the wingers at the football club not only have got the responsibilities going forward and creating opportunities up the pitch, but they've also got defensive responsibilities as well. And we've seen on a number of occasions how both Bernard and Richarlison get back and help their fullbacks out. So Anthony Gordon's been saying that, he believes he needs more game time, he wants more game time, he's ready, and he wants to get involved as much as possible. Now, obviously, like I said, since Carlo Ancelotti's come in, he's spoken very, very highly of Anthony Gordon, but we haven't quite seen him, I think, as much, or maybe enough as what we'd all like. Obviously, it was his 19th birthday a couple of days ago. He was presented with the match ball from his first Premier League game, Premier League debut, by Carlo Ancelotti, and it had me thinking. And obviously after the interview come out and he was speaking about how he wants to get more game time and he wants to be involved a lot more, it had me thinking, is it time for Anthony Gordon now to step in and get his opportunity? Because when you look at the players around Anthony Gordon and the players that play in the similar positions to him, on the pitch, it's not exactly like we're performing fantastically in those positions to the point where you go, okay, you're a fantastic young prospect, but realistically, are you at the level of X, Y, and Z at the moment? No, you're not, so that's why you're not getting your opportunities. Listen, I'll give credit where credit's due. Theo Walcott's been in relatively decent form since Carlo Ancelotti's come in, especially over the last sort of couple of weeks or so. But obviously he was being out injured, and for me, the game against Arsenal last Sunday really, really opened my eyes to this Anthony Gordon situation, because I thought, you know what, we've seen him in a couple of games. He looked really, really impressive against Leicester. He looked really good in that half against West Ham United as well, and then we just didn't see any more of him, really. We didn't see any more of him from that point onwards. And then I sort of compared what I watched on Sunday afternoon on the wing. Now, I know we performed quite well on Sunday afternoon, and we were unlucky to not get away with the 3 points, but I specifically targeted the wingers because realistically, if Anthony Gordon was to come into this team, he would play on one of those wings or in the centre of the park, depending on where Carlo Ancelotti deemed he should be playing. And you look at across the four in that midfield that started the game on Sunday, and you sort of think, right, okay, well, would Anthony Gordon have done more than Alex Iwobi did on Sunday? Possibly. Would he have done more than Gylfi Sigurdsson done? Probably. And would he have been a better impact as a more of an attacking midfielder than than Fabian Delph or Morgan Schneider, probably as well. And you know, obviously Anthony Gordon's having his time at the moment where some weeks he's on the bench, some weeks he's not on the bench. But for me personally, I just feel like, you know, if your number one wingers, let's say, are Bernard and Theo Walcott at the moment for Carlo Ancelotti, obviously I dare say that'll change in the summer transfer window, but at the moment it looks like if we had an entire squad fit, if everybody was fit, our two wingers would be Bernard on one wing and Theo Walcott on the other, and that's fine. If Carlo Ancelotti's looking at it and he's thinking, right, you know, Anthony, you're a good young player, you're coming up, you're going to have plenty of opportunities, but at the moment Bernard's in better form and Theo Walcott's in better form. I think there's potentially an argument there, but what I don't see an argument for is how you could argue that Alex Iwobi and or Gylfi Sigurdsson are in better form than Anthony Gordon. Now, I know we haven't seen much of Anthony Gordon, and I do feel sorry for the kid because he's come up from the under-23, so he's not playing in the under-23s as regularly, obviously, as he was prior to that, because he's in and around the matchday squad, and he's not going to play a game for the under-23s on a Saturday and then be in the matchday squad to play for the first team on the Sunday in case he is needed. So I do feel a little bit sorry for him because he's not getting that game time on the pitch for the first team, and also he's been taken out the under-23 squad. He's training with the first team constantly. You know, and obviously his goal and his aim is to play consistently in the first team. And I just sort of sit there and I think, what could possibly go wrong? What's the biggest negative we could have? Let's say, for example, on Sunday, if Theo Walcott still doesn't make it, if Theo Walcott still is deemed not fit enough to play, what would be the biggest issue? What would be the worst thing that could happen if we put Bernard on one wing and Anthony Gordon on the other? What would be the worst that could happen? Would he perform worse than Alex Iwobi's done over the past 2 or 3 weeks? Possibly, but even if he did, you know, we weren't getting much from Alex Iwobi. We haven't been getting much from Gylfi Sigurdsson all season, and I just worry a little bit with the Anthony Gordon situation because I really don't want it to turn out like we've seen multiple times where players sort of are fantastic in the under-23s, they get promoted into the first team, they have an odd cameo appearance here and there, they show a lot of potential, but then they just don't really get the opportunities frequently. There's no consistency there, and they end up sort of either going out on loan for the season, and then ultimately we end up selling them. And we've seen a lot of players that's happened to, and granted, a lot of them haven't went on to be, you know, fantastic successes. Obviously, you look at the likes of Jack Rodwell, who went to Manchester City, but then ultimately fell down to Sunderland. There's been a lot of players that Everton have sort of had in their academy, moved on, and they haven't gone on to be the world beaters that we may once have thought that he potentially could be. Ademola Lookman's a very, very good example, although he wasn't in the academy. Obviously, he was in the first team. He wasn't getting as much game time. He went to Leipzig, and you know, it hasn't worked out how we would have liked to work out. But there is the occasional player that leaves Everton Football Club, and it happens with every football club and every academy, leave the football club because they're not getting the opportunities that they feel like they deserve, and they go on and they improve and they end up a first teamer in another football club. You know, one of the biggest, most prime examples that we're seeing week in, week out this season in the Premier League is John Lundstrom. John Lundstrom was a player in Everton's academy who was promoted to the first team, trained with the first team every week, got the odd 20 minutes here and there, never really settled down, never really got first team opportunities, again, ended up loaning him out, selling him ultimately, and now he's playing week in, week out, arguably one of Sheffield United's most valuable players, playing in that key position, scoring consistently, getting assists consistently, being that playmaker for a team that are currently fighting for Champions League football. Whether we like to say it or not, they are. There's other players, Shane Duffy, you know, Shokran Mustafi, whether we judge those players as good enough to be in Everton's team now, I think potentially we'd definitely be looking at the likes of John Lundstrom as being good enough to be in the Everton team. Whether we'd think Shane Duffy or Shokran Mustafi are good enough to be in the Everton team, it's irregardless really. What they've done is they've moved on and they've become first teamers in other Premier League clubs, and that's just not what I want Anthony Gordon to do, because I think Anthony Gordon's now coming to the point in his career where he understands that he needs first team football. Obviously, preferably it would be for Everton, because he's grew up supporting Everton, he's been an Everton fan all his life, he's went to watch Everton in the ground, as we all do, and now he's sort of living the dream of playing for Everton. But I think he knows for his career as a professional, first and foremost, he is a professional, and this is his career. He only gets one opportunity at this career. You know, yes, he's a fan of Everton Football Club, but we've seen a classic situation with Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney was and still is to this day an Everton fan. However, in order for Everton to succeed in the future, in order for Wayne Rooney to succeed, he had to move on. There's massive loyalties in football, but Anthony Gordon isn't going to stay at Everton. If, you know, somebody come to Anthony Gordon tomorrow and said, listen, you've got two options. You either stay at Everton for the rest of your career and you're in and out, you get loaned out pretty much every season, and then ultimately you get sold at some point in the future because other players have come in and taken up your place, or you go now to a team that you're going to be in the first team within the next 12 to 18 months and you're going to be playing consistently, and that would be a serious decision for Anthony Gordon, and I don't want him to have to come to that decision because, like I said at the start of the team, it's not like we're sitting here and we're saying, well, it's unfortunate for Anthony because Walcott's in fantastic form, Bernard's in electric form, Iwobi's in brilliant form, Sigurdsson's in brilliant form. That's not the case whatsoever. The players that are playing in a similar position as to what Anthony Gordon would be coming into this team and playing in aren't performing to the level that we've come to expect. And what would be the worst that would happen if we put an Anthony Gordon into the squad against Manchester United, started him, or even had him on the bench and brought him on for 20-30 minutes, give him the same sort of progression plan, the same sort of plan as a Moise Keane's got, for example, where sometimes he starts a game, then the next game he might come off the bench, then the next game he mightn't come off the bench. He needs a progression plan, and this all folds into that conversation that we had a couple of months ago about the progression of our young players from academy level into first team Premier League football, and we spoke about how there needs to be a serious conversation about why we're not seeing enough academy players coming through to play first team football, which ultimately we're not, are we? Let's be honest. Obviously over the years, especially with David Moyes at Everton, we've seen a load of them. Ross Barkley brought in was probably the latest of them. Okay, we've seen Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Mason Holgate, and Tom Davies coming in, but out of those three players, two of them were signed as good, potential, promising young players. Tom Davies obviously has been here since he was a kid, very much like Anthony Gordon, and he's been brought into the first team squad, and that's fair enough. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Mason Holgate, they were brought in as young, good prospects, who pretty much when they were signed for Everton, there was the idea that they were going to be playing for the first team week in, week out at some point in the future. And I just don't want Anthony Gordon to be another one of those classic examples of a player that gets an odd 15 minutes here and there, maybe appears 4 or 5 times in a season, and then ends up going out on loan and ultimately is sold to maybe a team that you'd say, okay, they're not as big or as, I don't know, not as good as Everton, which I don't like using that word, but you know what I mean, like Sheffield United, where at the time we sold John Lundstrom, and then in a couple of years' time you're sort of thinking, fucking hell, what a world beater he is, what a player he is, we could do with him. And I think another thing surrounding Anthony Gordon is that from the time I've watched him in the under-23s, and from the brief spells I've seen him in the first team, he is exactly the type of player that we could need and we do need going forward. Now, I'm not saying put Anthony Gordon in the first team and he'll fix every single issue and he will, it'll mean we don't have to sign a creative midfielder in the summer and he's good enough to play in the Champions League or whatever. But what I'm saying is, at the minute, currently, we don't have the opportunity to bring in a creative midfielder, a midfielder that's going to run at teams, a midfielder that's got blistering pace, isn't afraid to shoot, and has got some shot on him as well. We haven't got the opportunity to bring that in until the summer. Now, Carlo Ancelotti might go out in the summer and he might bring in a player that suits every single one of those expectations that I've just said and is, 5 times as good as an Anthony Gordon is. And then he might say to Anthony Gordon, listen, you're going to learn off this lad, you're going to watch him play, you're going to play next to him, and we want you to be like him. Or he might say, listen, we've brought in this lad, you're not going to get much game time, so maybe we're going to look for a loan for you, or, see where your career's going from there. But at the moment, we haven't got the option to do that until the summer, and we've got a lot of games coming up, and I just feel like we've got too many games for players to be hiding. I just really think players like Gylfi Sigurdsson, who now are starting to be known by the fan base as the players that'll stand and point and will try and move plays. All Gylfi Sigurdsson's done for the last 3-4 weeks is stand on the pitch and hide. He hides in plain sight. He's pointing at other players to move around the pitch. He's pointing at other players to get around the pitch. When he gets the ball, he seems like he panics. He doesn't want it. He wants to get it out his feet. There's no room for that. There's no time for poor performances like we've seen from the likes of Fabian Delph recently. There's no time for wingers who are taking too long on the ball, like with Alex Iwobi. We're coming up to a period of fixtures. We've already started the period of fixtures with the Arsenal game, where we're playing a lot of top teams in a short space of time, like we did in December, and we need to be picking up as many points as possible. And I just feel like there's no massive negative, or there wouldn't be a massive negative for putting Anthony Gordon in the first team, at least the first team squad, consistently bringing him off the bench in the next couple of games. Whether he starts against Manchester United, I'm not saying put him in and start him against Manchester United. And ultimately, listen, while I'm talking about this and while I'm ranting about this, we have to keep in mind that our manager currently is Carlo Ancelotti. If we'd have been with Marco Silva, no disrespect to Marco Silva, but I'd have felt like a lot of the fan base would have had sort of a right really to say, you don't know what you're doing, put Anthony Gordon in, he's performing better than Iwobi or Sigurdsson. Now, obviously, we all understand as a fan base, it's very, very tough to question a manager like Carlo Ancelotti who has the accolades that he has. And I'm not sitting here saying Ancelotti should do this, Ancelotti should do that. He should be playing Anthony Gordon over Iwobi. He should be playing Anthony Gordon over Sigurdsson. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what can Gylfi Sigurdsson and Alex Iwobi, based on their recent performances, what can they provide us that Anthony Gordon couldn't? And when you see a young player like Anthony Gordon with all the talent that he has come out and say, I need to be playing games of football, I want to be playing games of football, it does worry you, because, you know, we cannot be naive in this situation and think, well, he's an Everton fan, he grew up watching Everton, he supports the football club, so he'll just be there when we need him. You know, he's not going to leave, he's not going to want to leave, he's an Everton fan, because footballers have one career and they need to do what's best for the career. And if Anthony Gordon's still sitting there in the summer going, you know what, I broke into the first team this year, was training with the first team week in, week out, yet I only played 4 or 5 games, maybe I need to look for a move elsewhere where I'm going to be playing consistent football. One thing that Anthony Gordon has shown in his time in the under-23s and in his brief spell in the first team is that he is a player that A, gets involved, gets stuck in, he is good on the ball, and he's not afraid to move the ball forward, he's not afraid to get involved. And we've seen ultimately in the under-23s, we didn't see it a lot when he come into the first team, because like I said, he only played, you know, he's only played what, a game and a bit, or 90 odd minutes over 2 games, whatever it may be. But what we've seen consistently in the under-23s is a player that would take responsibility on the ball, a player that when his team were down or when his team was struggling to find the goal, he'd take responsibility, he'd pick the ball up, and he'd have a go from 30 yards, he'd have a go from 25 yards, and if it didn't go in, it didn't go in, and what? But a lot of times, I wouldn't say more often than not, but a lot of times he found the back of the net with those strikes from 20 yards, with those curlers from 15 yards out. That is exactly what Everton's first team are screaming out for. A midfielder that will take control, a midfielder that will take responsibility. Now again, I know it's an entire different kettle of fish playing in the Premier League, and I know I'm not saying that Anthony Gordon's going to come in and he's going to adopt the same style that he had in the under-23s in the Premier League, where he's going to pick the ball up and he's going to speak to players like Andre Gomez and Gylfi Sigurdsson and Richarlison and say, no, I'm taking this forward, this is my ball. But you just don't know that he hasn't got that confidence until he's given a consistent run of games in the Premier League. You just don't know that. Look at Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney come in as a 16-year-old, and people will have seen Wayne Rooney in the academy, in the under-23s, the under-18s, whatever it was, and he might go, oh, he's dead. You know, he's dead demanding. He picks the ball up. He wants the responsibility. He wants to take it all on his shoulders, and he's got the quality. But there will have been a lot of coaches, a lot of fans, a lot of people before Wayne Rooney played that game against Arsenal where he scored that goal. There'd have been a lot of fans saying, but it's an entire kettle of fish taking that responsibility on and doing that in a Premier League game. Wayne Rooney was given his opportunity and he done exactly that. At such a young age, he went, no, you know what, I'm carrying this team and I'm going and scoring the winner, and he done it in such an emphatic fashion. What's to say? I'm not saying that Anthony Gordon will be the same, but what's to say that Anthony Gordon won't do that? What's to say that he won't pick the ball up and go, you know what, I'm taking this responsibility on? Because at the end of the day, realistically, if we're talking and we're being honest with ourselves, if Everton are 2-0 down or 1-0 down, or if Everton have, like the Arsenal game, pulled it back to 2-2, prime example was Arsenal on Sunday. Everton pulled it back to 2-2, conceded within 30 seconds of the second half, and for pretty much 45 minutes we were looking for an equaliser. Not one of those experienced midfielders, I'm talking Gylfi Sigurdsson, I'm talking Alex Iwobi, I'm talking, Schneiderlin, Delph. Yeah, I'm not going to obviously discuss Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, because they did try and take it on and try and score the opportunities that they had, but they were unlucky. But not one of those midfielders like a Gylfi Sigurdsson, like we've seen Gylfi do multiple times over the years, took the game by the scruff of the neck, took the ball and went, no, you know what, I'm going to go bish, bash, bosh, take it past him, and I'm going to smack it in the top left-hand corner. We need a player that has that level of creativity, has that confidence, has that ability to take on the responsibility, which Gylfi Sigurdsson doesn't. That's a massive thing. I don't even know if that's a saying, but I'm making it a saying. The ability to take on the responsibility. And and has the confidence to do that. And I honestly think if Carlo Ancelotti said to Anthony Gordon, right, okay, you know, you've been talking, whether it's been in the paper or not, it's probably not, it's probably been a private conversation that's been leaked. You've been talking, you know, you've asked me, you've asked the coaches, you want more game time, you're starting on Sunday against Manchester United, you're starting on one wing, Bernard's starting on the other, Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison in front of you, go and show me what you've got. Massive game against Manchester United at Goodison Park, a game that we need to win, a game that we so desperately need to win if we're going to stay in this European fight. Go and show me what you've got. Who's to say that Anthony Gordon won't go bang, I've got the responsibility, I've got the pressure on my shoulders, and go out and have an absolute worldy game against Manchester United. If he goes out and he doesn't perform brilliantly, and you know, after 60 minutes Carlo Ancelotti can go, you know what, you know, you've not really played to the level that we need you to play here, so I'm going to bring you off and I'm going to put a Theo Walcott on, I'm going to put an Alex Iwobi on. But for me, what I've seen in the brief spell that Anthony Gordon has had in the first team, I'm talking the game against Leicester and I'm talking the game against West Ham, the entire second half against West Ham, I've seen a player that not only looked very promising going forward, but also was getting back, was putting in his defensive shift, was making those hard ditch tackles that you have to make. And although Theo Walcott's been in good form recently, Theo Walcott doesn't do that, let's be perfectly honest. He offers very little defensive support. We've seen it multiple times over his Everton career. If Theo Walcott isn't offering anything going forward, he's not offering anything at all because he doesn't get back. We've seen it against Watford a couple of weeks ago. The right-hand side was a massive culprit for 2 goals because Theo didn't come back and help Sidibe. Ultimately, Alex Iwobi is not really known for getting back and putting in his defensive shift either. So what have we got to lose? I just think, I read it in the on social media, on Twitter, and I thought, I just don't want Anthony Gordon to be another one of those players that ultimately leaves the football club because he hasn't had enough game time and then goes on to be an absolute world beater. And from what I've seen of Anthony Gordon in the under-23s, yes, I know it's a completely different level to the Premier League, but what I've seen from Anthony Gordon in the under-23s is a player that has potentially got the promise and the potential to go on and do that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I've got loads of comments, ranted a little bit there. I'm just going to tweet the stream out so everybody knows that we are live. If you're enjoying, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel as well, don't forget to subscribe. Go and follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. Them links are in the description below. They only takes a second. Bear with me. Let's get this stream tweeted out. Let me know your thoughts, obviously, on the Anthony Gordon situation. We're going to go into the live comments now. I've got loads more to talk about on the agenda. We're going to talk about the Angry Birds potential extension of the deal, and we're going to talk about the dreaded VAR, Video Assistant Referee, and why it works so well in Europe and why it doesn't work so well in England. Whammy says, what are we on about today, Cam? There you go, we're on about VAR, Angry Birds and Anthony Gordon. He also says, how you doing, mate? How's the chat peeps doing? I'm not too bad, thank you, I'm not too bad. Still trying to battle this cold though. I've had this cold for about 3 weeks, it's doing me head in. Joel says prediction for United. You'll have to wait and see in the game preview on Friday, my mate. Goodwick says, do you believe Gordon should start because after that Arsenal game, although I thought that Sidibe shouldn't play, Coleman should, and with Walcott injured, I think he should play. Again, I'm not necessarily making this video to say Anthony Gordon should 100% start against Arsenal. It's more a case of Anthony Gordon deserves more game time and should be getting more game time. And I think he should, against Man United, sorry. And I think he should definitely be in the squad for the game against Manchester United. And if, personally for me, say we start with Bernard on one wing and Iwobi on the other. Or say we started with the same 11. I doubt we will start with the same 11. But say we did start with the same 11 with Sigurdsson on one wing and Iwobi on the other. If Anthony Gordon's on the bench and it gets to 60 minutes and neither of those players have done anything significant, which, going off the Arsenal game, they didn't and they won't have, then why not bring an Anthony Gordon on? Why not give him his opportunity? He's something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer won't have planned for because he won't know anything about him. Manchester United won't have planned for. He is a dark horse in this situation and I think he definitely deserves more game time. It's not necessarily a case of does he start or doesn't he start. He just needs to be involved a lot more than he's being involved at the minute. Dave says, I'll play him over Iwobi or Sigurdsson, but Bernard is number 1 for me. Fair enough. Whammy says, hey Dave. Dave says, what's up, Whammy? Whammy says, should Ben off Walcott, put Richie right wing left and Dom and Moyes up front, Bernard left. It's whether Carlo Ancelotti will do that. Obviously, I think he very, very clearly sees Richarlison as a striker, and you know it's hard to disagree considering his form he's in. William says midfield Gomez and Delph, I guess. Uden says Everton will beat Manchester United. I hope so. William says until Kabaman arrives and he is amazing. I hope so. William says I think people are a bit harsh on Iwobi. He's so out of position right wing. It's not him. He just doesn't have a place in the system. He couldn't play, and that's fair enough. But again, I'd rather put somebody that does play the system and somebody that can play the system and can play in his natural position in over sort of forcing Alex Iwobi into a position that he's very clearly not, equipped at. William says, hey Jess. Dave says, Kabama was a beast for Mines, but we haven't seen enough of him to say Gomez and him will be a dream team. We definitely haven't. Wayne says, should have loaned him out if he ain't going to get a chance. Potentially, but again, for me, I only like loaning players out if the ultimate goal is that they come back a better player and that they then get consistent first team football, a little bit like we've seen with Mason Holgate. I don't like loaning players out if the idea is just get them off the books, loan him out, and then he comes back in the summer, and then we loan him out again, and then we loan him out again, and then ultimately he leaves the football club. William says, how you doing, Eugene? Hey, Wayne. Jess says, hi. William says, I don't get why we didn't loan him, but then we have no right winger and we still don't play him. He needs to be playing, in my opinion. Wayne says, Iwobi is dog shit, get rid. William says, play Sigurdsson left. That's just insane, not fast enough to be a snail, never mind a left winger. Hazard says, alright, Cam, hope all is well with you and the family and all the chat people. I'm not too bad, I hope you're well, Hazrat. William says, hey Haz. Ewan says, what is your second favourite team? I don't have one, mate. I'm just Everton. That's all I care about. Everton Football Club. Don't have a second team. Never will, never have. Wayne says, didn't get the start of Iwobi over Bernard. We're playing our panic signing over a quality playmaker. I think that was probably down to injury. William says, at the minute, Dortmund. Hazard says, going for a 2-1 win. I hope so. William says, I think they play Liverpool. It will be an intense game. I agree, Wayne. Not for me to question Ancelotti, but I was so confused and worried when I saw the starters and played just as badly I thought would, and the subs were baffling. Yeah, potentially, but again, like you've said there, we can't really criticise Carlo Ancelotti, but I think the Bernard situation with Iwobi on the weekend was a little bit down to injury rather than preference, particularly. That's just my opinion. Anyway, moving on swiftly but surely. We'll get back into the live comments in just a second. Give me a sec. Got a bit of a tickly throat. I do apologise for that. That is unprofessional, so I do apologise. But like I said, I'm still combating this cold. Paracetamol seems to be doing very, very little. But moving on to talking about Angry Birds. We've done a live stream last week talking about how Everton have confirmed that their deal, their sponsorship, their partnership with Sports Pisa, who obviously currently sponsor the front of our kits. They're not on this one. This is Chang. I was just about to show you. But obviously, they're on the front of the home kit, the away kit, all the training gear, etc. Everton announced last week that their partnership with Sports Pisa will end 2 years earlier than it was supposed to end due to various issues, and obviously it now being open for Everton to come and get a new sponsor. We done a live stream on it. We spoke about the potential of Everton having a whole new sort of kit design come next season. We spoke about how obviously we now know that Sports Pisa are going to go, so we're going to need a new main shirt sponsorship. We also spoke about the rumours surrounding Umbro and whether or not Everton would stay with Umbro. And then finally we spoke about the possibility of a new sleeve sponsor. We know, or we potentially know, it's rumoured that the Angry Birds deal with Angry Birds being on obviously the sleeve of our shirts, of our kits, is due to end come the end of this season. We spoke about the potential of having a new sponsorship come in, but we also spoke about how the partnership, the relationship with Angry Birds may be perfectly fine and they may be open to extending that. We have had an update on this as of a couple of days ago, yesterday, in fact Tuesday. Rovio, who obviously are the owners, the creators of the Angry Bird sort of product, I've probably just butchered that, but Rovio is apparently entertaining the possibilities of extending its sleeve sponsorship deal with Everton. Kai Torstiller, the company's marketing director, hinted that the company will be interested in prolonging the partnership. So Rovio, obviously, who are the creators of Angry Birds, are seemingly keen to extend the partnership with Everton, continue the partnership with Everton. I think it's a big opportunity now for Everton to sort of throw a few demands in there. If we're going to be getting a whole new shirt sponsorship on the front of the shirt, and it's going to be a company that are bringing in, quite a considerable amount of money, obviously, to fund transfers and wages and help, us, get over that financial fair play sort of bracket, etc. I nearly said breach then, definitely not breach. Then it is a big opportunity for Everton to say to the Angry Birds, listen, be a little bit cheeky with it, say, listen, we appreciate all of the what you've done for us, the content you've created and stuff, but, we've got X, Y, and Z companies who want to come in and give us a little bit more than you're offering us, so if you're going to be the sponsorship going forward, boost your offer a little bit. It's good that the company, are coming out and saying they're looking, to extend the partnership with Everton, or they're, entertaining the possibility of extending the partnership with Everton. It shows that there's a good rapport. It shows that there's a good relationship between Everton and Angry Birds, and obviously it shows that, in the couple of years that we've had them, there hasn't been any major issues. And I dare say Everton are also exploring the opportunities as to whether to extend that partnership or to bring in an entire news partnership, obviously, and the kit for next season looking massively different with a different sleeve sponsor and a different shirt sponsor as well. Whether Everton are wanting to do that and wanting to totally reinvent the kit itself, or whether they're just looking to change one sponsor at a time, obviously we'll wait to see how that one develops. But we did speak last week about the possibility of extending it. We've heard now directly from the marketing director of the company that creates Angry Birds, and they've said that they are entertaining the possibility of extending the partnership. So there you go. Maybe we'll have Angry Birds on our sleeves for the foreseeable future, including next season. One thing's for sure, we'll definitely have a new shirt sponsor on the front of our shirt, so we've got that to look forward to at the very, very least. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section down below. Briefly, before we go on to talking about VAR and before we get back into the live comments, it's been announced that Chris Calvert-Lewin is the referee for the game against Manchester United on Sunday. There's been a little bit on Twitter over the last sort of 24 hours or so since it's been released, since it's been announced that Chris Calvert-Lewin is apparently a Manchester United fan, or from Manchester, got links to Manchester United. I don't know how much of that is true. One thing I do know, to be fair to him, is that he refereed the Merseyside derby at Anfield last year, the derby that we ended up losing thanks to an absolute disgrace of an error by a certain somebody that we're not going to mention. One thing I do know is Chris Calvert-Lewin refereed that game, and he actually appeared to be pretty decent, to be fair to him. Not saying that he's going to be decent on Sunday, and I definitely think he's refereed us since and being absolutely shocking, but that doesn't surprise me. But, he appeared to be okay, to be fair to him. There has been a lot of stuff on Twitter about how he's a Manchester United fan, etc. But I suppose we'll see how he referees the game on Sunday, and then we can all make our judgments. Hazard says, you okay, Spoons? Wormy says, Cam had a mid-afternoon kip there with his calf flag hairdo. I didn't, mate. I didn't. It's just... it's a bit mad. It's a bit mad. I watched it the other day, and then I slept on it, and it just doesn't brush. It just doesn't brush. I'm going to wash it tonight, so it should look better by Friday, hopefully. Wormy says, looks like a toupee. Wayne says, Gordon's main problem, mate, is his build. Big difference. Rooney was a man, potentially, but, again, how many small sort of players do we see in the Premier League that do well? You've got some of the best players in the Premier League aren't necessarily big built players. Potentially that's the reason. I just think at the minute he may be being pushed a little bit to the side, just because Carlo Ancelotti obviously massively understands that there needs to be a lot of players come into this football club if we're going to even think about challenging for any sort of league or any sort of European trophy. There needs to be a lot of signings made, and maybe he's just focusing a little bit too much on that rather than potentially having a player that's ready-made already there in Anthony Gordon. Again, not saying in any way, shape or form that he is ready-made, but I just definitely think it's a topic, it's a talking point, isn't it? Wim says, hit the like and Campbell flips to pay, right? If he could hit the like button, it'd mean a massive amount to me. Hazard says, yes, hopefully get a chance and does well at the weekend. Gordon, I hope so, mate. I hope so. I'm not confident that he'll be in the matchday squad, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I'm definitely not confident that he'll start the game, but, I hope so, because I just think he deserves his opportunity now, especially considering the players around him that are playing in the positions that he'd be playing in. Are just simply not doing it at the moment. They're just simply not doing it. Hazard also says, yes, definitely hit the like. Wormy says, if we do nothing else for the rest of the season, we should run out all these players and really see where we are at. Fair enough. Wormy says, we should just run out Sigurdsson all the way to Sheffield Wednesday. Hazard says, yeah, definitely. Wormy says, or make him a left back in the dressing room. Hazard says, yeah, had that near Xmas. Joel says, oof, a cliffhanger. Hazard says, lol. Wayne says, you got the coronavirus, mate. Lay low. I haven't, mate. I definitely haven't. I hope I haven't anyway. Don't get me, I'll be worrying now. Josh says, would you start Coleman or Sidibe? Probably Coleman, based on the performance of Sidibe against Arsenal. I think he let himself down defensively. Manchester United are a team that have got quite a lot of pace going forward. Obviously, they've got Daniel James, who's very, very fast. Mason Greenwood, Anthony Martial, whoever one of those plays on the wing, very, very quick players. And plus, I think Seamus done really, really well against Crystal Palace the week before, and I think he was unlucky to have been dropped for the Arsenal game, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Hazard says probs Coleman. William says Richarlison's best position is left wing, but probably also our best right winger, probably our best striker as well, to be honest with you. He's just our best player at the minute, isn't he? Wayne says, I miss your Monday chat. Thoughts on Pickford, mate, as I'm done with him now. I don't actually think he was that bad against Arsenal, to be honest with you. Maybe he could have done better for a couple of the goals, potentially the Aubameyang winner ultimately, but I think, you know, I think we have to make sure that we don't just go in on Jordan Pickford because it's easy to go in on him, and we sort of look at the players around him and the defence that are making mistakes. I think defensively we were dreadful on Sunday, certainly on that right-hand side. But again, from Carlo Ancelotti's comments last week, which we spoke about again, he seems to be happy with Jordan Pickford at the minute, so that's it, innit, really. Hazard says, yeah, jack of all trades, lol. Kenneth says, I don't see why we don't play a 4-3-1-2. Maybe Carlo Ancelotti will change the formation now based on the results against Arsenal. Maybe he'll change it going into the game against Manchester United. Wayne says, if you loan them out and they can't cut it in the Championship, they ain't going to cut it at Everton. Fair point. Eugene says, what do you think of the coronavirus in Italy and Tenerife? Scary, but let's hope it's under control. Andrew says, hey Cam, who is the best number 10 in the Everton squad right now? Do we have a best number 10? Probably Bernard, even though he doesn't even play there. But I think from the time I've seen Bernard playing that number 10 role this season, I've been more impressed than the times I've seen Sigurdsson and Iwobi playing there. William says, paracetamol, you maniac, can get some vitamin C, the supplements or fruit, oranges. I've had a couple of oranges today, and I've had a little vitamin C jelly tablet thing, so I'm getting a fair bit of that as well. Hazard says, don't use number 10, lol. William says, get the missus to make you homemade chicken soup. Does that help? Andre says, Bernard, Iwobi or Sigurdsson. I'd probably say Bernard. William says, best number 10 is probably Bernard. Andre says, or do we play Gomez there? No. As it says, or homemade Vindaloo. CJ says, reckon Bain should start the next match even if Dean is fit. Sorry, it's totally off topic. I thought Leighton Baines was fantastic, to be honest, against Arsenal, and potentially maybe, yeah, he does deserve to. Whether he will or not, I don't know. But I haven't got a bad word to say about Baines against Arsenal. I thought he was fantastic. Hazard says yes, Defo Bernard, and William says Gomez isn't a 10. Anyway, let's get back into the topics. One final topic on the agenda, which we're going to talk about, and may seem a bit ranty, may go on for a little bit long, but I think it needs to be talked about, and it's not even specifically Everton related, it's more football related in general. If you're enjoying the scene, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Loads of content coming. Obviously, we've got the live game preview ahead of the game against Manchester United. That'll be live at 5:30 on Friday. I've just nearly threw me pen into me skin, so I'm going to put that down now and stop messing about. But anyway, VAR, let's talk about VAR for a second, because I was innocently watching Chelsea versus Bayern Munich last night. Bayern Munich absolutely ripping Chelsea to bits. What a team they've got, by the way. What a team they've got. They've got a young left-back, Davis is his name, and I think he's 19 years old, and he's just absolutely unbelievable. He literally tore Chelsea to bits yesterday. He really, really did. A fantastic performance by him and the rest of the Bayern Munich squad. Lewandowski on something like 27 goals this season, something ridiculous. Anyway, that's totally off topic. I want to talk about VAR. So I watched the game, the Champions League game yesterday. It was Bayern Munich, a German team, facing Chelsea, a team from England. So it was Chelsea from London, Bayern Munich from Munich, game being played in England with the officials from France. So firstly, I just want to point that out. That will make sense later on in the discussion, so keep that in mind. A German team versus an English team with an official from France. Two situations happened in the game that involved VAR, and VAR being used correctly and as it should be used. One of them, before we go into it, let me have a sip of my water. One of them being a possible penalty decision. Bayern Munich had an opportunity. The ball was drilled in. I can't remember who it was that put it in. It was put in the box. It hit the hand, or it hit the arm of, I think it was Christensen, in the Chelsea box. The referee gave no penalty, waved it away, play continued, and in the background the VAR check was being made. The referee continued play, no stopping the play while the VAR check was being made, none of this blow up and wait around. The referee continued the play, and from sitting at home watching it, what we heard was the commentator say, they're checking for a possible penalty, About 5 or 10 seconds later, check over, no penalty. Nothing different on the pitch. Fans in the ground, players on the pitch will have seen the referee wave it off and will have been comfortable knowing that in the back of their minds, okay, the right decision will be made because that is being checked now. No, stop the game and wait for the decision. No, blow up when the other team's on the counter and wait for you to say no penalty. Just continue the game and then the decision to be made in the background. One, perfect use of how VAR should be used and how it's being used correctly. Secondly, there was an altercation between Robert Lewandowski and Marcos Alonso. The referee caught it. It was off the ball, completely off the ball. Marcos Alonso appears to sort of push or, potentially slap Lewandowski across the face. Lewandowski goes down. The referee initially gives a yellow card and then obviously is told by VAR, obviously is informed by whoever the virtual assistant referee is that could potentially be deemed as a red card. The referee goes over, watches the screen, keep that in mind. We've only ever seen that once in English football. I think it was Michael Oliver. Goes over, watches the screen, makes the decision, ultimately gives a red card. Probably the correct decision. He's off the ball and he slaps him in the face. 2 key decisions there being made correctly and VAR being used correctly. Again, like I said, in a European game between a team from Germany, a team from England, being officiated by an official from France. Now, I was watching this and I thought, yeah, that's how VAR should be used. And I didn't really think too much of it. I definitely didn't think about talking about it on the live stream. And then all of a sudden, I heard the commentators. Now, I think it was Steve McManaman, and I don't know if it is Fletch who partners him. I don't know who the other one is, but it was definitely Steve McManaman. And I just heard one of them, an off comment, just say, that's how VAR should be used. And the other one went, yeah, it is. That's exactly how VAR should be used, isn't it? We're seeing a good example of it. And that really, really wound me up a little bit because it seems that these pundits, these professionals talking about football, even some footballers, some ex-players, whatever, don't seem to be grasping that the big issue with VAR in the Premier League and in England isn't the system, isn't virtual assistant refereeing, it's not the screen, it's not the replay, it's in the exact same, it's being employed in the exact same capacity as it has in the Champions League, in the World Cup. The problem with VAR in this country is that the referees simply are not good enough to use it or to officiate games of football. There's 2 issues with VAR at the minute, the rule book and the levels of officiating. Now, the rule book only comes into play for things like offsides and handballs where, people argue about how VAR is disgraceful because it gives offsides that, when players are offside by a hair stretch. That's not VAR at all. VAR is put in there ultimately to make the correct decision. The rule book states that if you are in front of the last man, the last defender, you are offside. It doesn't say by a leg or by a considerable amount or an explained amount. It just says if you are offside, if you are in front, if any part of your body that can be scored, you can score with, is in front of an opposition player, you are offside. Now, even if that's by a millimetre, you are offside. That isn't VAR's fault. That's the rule book fault. If we're going to have an argument, if we're going to have a discussion about that, then we need to refer to how the rule needs to be changed by, you're at least significantly offside, or you're offside by a certain amount of, metres or millimetres or whatever. Not a hair's stretch. That isn't VAR. Firstly, that's the rule book. Similar with the handball rule, where if you're an attacker, you can't handball it in the box, but if you're defending and it comes off your hand, blah blah blah. That's the rule book, and that needs to be assessed in itself. But the main point is the level of officiating and the level of refereeing in this country. And what I heard from the commentators yesterday was almost shock and surprise, as to be like, well, hang on, how can they get it right here and it works so well? No stopping of the play. Referee gives no penalty. Decision's made in his ear, so you made the right decision there, and then obviously, the game goes on. Or you made the wrong decision, he blows it up, he gives a penalty. None of this stopping and waiting for 25 minutes. And obviously the decision with the red card, referee gives it a yellow card. Someone in his ear said that can potentially be deemed as a red card, so the referee goes, you know what, I'm going to go over it, I'm going to look at the screen. The reason as to why it works well in the Champions League, it works well in Europe, it works well in Germany, it works well in the World Cup, it works well in cricket, it works well in rugby, it works well in volleyball championships, it works well when you're getting your dinner at Mackey's and you think you've ordered the cheeseburger and they give you the chicken burger and you go, hang on, let me VAR that. The reason why it works well in all of these different capacities is because the people using the system actually can use the system. The reason it doesn't work well in England is because the people using the system cannot fucking use it. They do not understand how to use it. The level of officiating and the level of refereeing in this country, I say it near enough week in, week out, and I am quite passionate about it because it does me head in, because the referees in this league are utter shite. They don't know what they're doing, they can't keep up with the game of football, and they simply do not understand the rules, and they're so egotistical, because a Premier League referee knows that he doesn't have to know fuck all about football or fuck all about the rules, because he knows he can't be questioned. He can't be questioned by managers, he can't be questioned by players. Yes, players and managers can come out and say the referee's had a nightmare there or he's made the wrong decision, but they can't directly stand next to him and go, explain to me why you made that decision, because the referee gets put into his little room at the end of a game, he gets changed and he fucks off, and nobody can ask him a question. And that's the reason why we're having the issues in this country. If you took Mike Dean into an interview room, you stick a Sky Sports camera in front of him, and you have the captain of a team that have just been done over by a VAR decision, and you have that captain saying, why did you make that decision, explain it to me, he wouldn't be able to explain the decision. Neither would the referee doing the VAR, and that's why they're just hoarded into a room and they don't get asked the question. That's exactly why we're in this situation now. Another really good example of it was in the Premier League last weekend. Chelsea versus Tottenham Hotspur at the weekend. I think it was Lo Celso. Lo Celso put his studs literally knee-high into a Chelsea player. Knee-high. His foot is so high up. It's a clear stamp. It's an absolute clear stamp all day long. Gets nowhere near the ball. No intention to go near the ball. VAR look at it for like 2 or 3 minutes. Obviously, they've reviewed it 26 times or whatever, however many times they look at it, and they say, no red card. No red card. And you're sitting there in that capacity yourself and you're thinking, that's absolute fucking bollocks. How can you say that's not a red card? He clearly stamps on him. There's no intent to win the ball. It's just a malicious tackle and it's dangerous play. No red card. What's even more frustrating about that situation is 20 minutes later, while the game was still going on, Stockley Park, who were viewing, who you know, where the officials are sitting and watching this screen. And by the way, we don't have cameras in Stockley Park, so we don't see what they're talking about. We don't see what they're watching. For all we know, they're sitting there watching The Simpsons on the telly, having a scran, and they're just looking at it once and going, no foul, foul that. 20 minutes later, while a game is still being played, Stockley Park come out to BT and say, we've got that one wrong. Now that, for me, leads all the way into the discussion about corruption in football, and how, for me, I just think football matches are as scripted as WWE wrestling. I really think the referees and the officials decide on the day what happens, who wins, who gets sent off, and that's it. But how can they come out 20 minutes later after watching it a couple of times more and say, oh yeah, that's a red card? But initially, when they watched it for 3 minutes, and, you know, they watched it however many, 26, 25 times, how can they say, no, that's not a red? But then ultimately, they've watched it again 10 minutes later and said, oh yeah, it is a red. It's just absolute utter bollocks. And the problem with VAR in this country, like we seen on Saturday in the game between Chelsea and Tottenham, is that the referees and the officials using it just simply are not good enough. And the only way it's going to improve isn't by getting rid of VAR. And I've been guilty of doing this on social media. I've been guilty on Twitter of saying, get rid of VAR, it's not good enough, it doesn't work, get rid of it. But the only way we're going to fix this issue, the only way we're going to solve this issue, isn't by getting rid of the virtual assistant referee, isn't by getting rid of the technology, is by getting rid of the poor level of officials in this league. Sack them all, put them all down to League 2, put them all down to League 1, the Championship, because they're all shite. Sack them all and bring in referees that are either from this country and a lot better at the jobs than they are, or referees from Europe that have got there's no argument about that they've got a bias between a certain team. We've seen it already, like I said, you know, before in the live stream. Chris Kavanaugh's going to referee the game between Everton and Manchester United at Goodison Park on Sunday. All of a sudden, over the last 24 hours since that's been announced, there's been multiple Everton fans on Twitter claiming that Chris Kavanaugh's a Manchester United fan and he grew up supporting Manchester United. Get rid of these referees and bring in referees from France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Poland, Switzerland, etc., where there is no question as to who they support or whether they support Premier League teams, because it's like, you know, they haven't been born into it. Yet they might support a Man United or a Chelsea, etc., but they're there to do the job, and it's very clear that the officials and the referees from those types of countries, from, you know, whether it be European countries or anywhere in the world, it's very clear that they're better than the referees that we have currently in this country, because the referees that we have currently in this country must be some of the poorest level of officials in world football at the minute. They really must be some of the poorest level of officials in world football, because they're just so poor. They make mistakes week in, week out. It's not Remember this, and remember this on Saturday, on Sunday, when you see a bad VAR decision. It's not VAR that's making a wrong decision, it's a referee. Ultimately, it's a referee, because it's a referee that watches that virtual, that screen. It's whether it's a, a Chris Kavanagh, a Michael Oliver, a Clattenburg, obviously not now, a John Moss, whoever it is, it's a Premier League referee that's watching that screen. You may see a Premier League referee on field one week and a VAR the next week, and VAR makes a decision and you go, we can't really blame the on-field referee because they haven't made that decision. The next week you might see a different on-field referee, and the VAR referee this time is the referee that you seen on-field last week, and you go, we can't really blame the on-field referee. But you can blame the on-field referees because they're all the same officials that are doing the VAR, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't understand the game of football very, very clearly. Either that, or this league, this country is full of corruption, and decisions are made before games are played, referees decide who wins the game, and the FA decides. So one or the other, it's either massively corrupt in this country, or the level of officiating is absolutely shite, or both. And I honestly think it's a bit of both, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's why VAR isn't working. And I just thought it was quite funny that, Steve McManaman and whoever was co-commentating. I mean, they mightn't have meant this on purpose, and I'm not just going in on them, but I just think it was quite funny that they come out and it was sort of all innocently like, oh, well, I wonder why it doesn't sort of work in the Premier League. That's why, because the officials are so poor, they don't know what they're doing, and the rule book is shocking as well. Anyway, that's my little rant on VAR. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section down below. We'll get involved in the live comments before we go. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Where are we? Wayme says Gomez isn't a 10, I agree. Wayme also says he's a proper midfielder in a 4-4-2, just need more defensive partner to pair with him. Can't argue with that. Hazard says, is right spoons. Andre says, I think 4-4-2 leaves our midfield exposed. We were overrun in the first half. We were. Wayme says, only because our midfield ponies. Hazard says, all rest was shit regardless of who we're playing. I agree. Wayme says, needs a string at the back. You pull all your hair, pops up, a little jingle plays. Maybe I just need to start putting that on, don't I? William says, get the likes in. If you could, it would mean a massive amount to me. William says, to be fair, though, at 50%, that's not bad as likes, since 50% of people don't have fingers. It isn't bad, to be fair, more than 50% now. Hazard says, lol. William says, yes, chicken soup is the best known cure for colds, flu, that sort of stuff. I'll have to get some. Underground says, bring Benny back, lol. Again, another player with a lot of potential. Uden says, best cure for colds is hot whiskey. I'll have to go and have some. Hopefully not too much, though. William says, home cure or help. Probably some doctors in the chat going, yeah, I didn't read that peer-reviewed paper. Eugene, throaty, coughs, honey and lemon and hot whiskey. Underground says, English referees at Sasha VAR. Did you see the tackle by Lascelles on Asperqueta? That's the one I'm talking about. William says, colds and flu. You bolster your immune system. I'm sure whiskey probably makes you feel better, though. Wayne says they're like EA, FIFA, they want it to be broken. Wayne says keep an eye on that young Dutch striker we missed out on. His boss, Xerxes, he has to be the most prolific striker in a few years. You heard it here first. Huge loss. I'll definitely have a watch out for him. Eugene says, what do you think of Robbie Savage on BT right now? I'm not interested in him, to be honest with you. I don't really pay much attention to him. Wayne says, Wayne, have you heard of Eduardo Canavigo? Wayne says, big issue with VAR is they're getting more wrong than right. Spot on. After the replay, spot on. Wayne says, yeah, maybe second or third, Wayne. I think Holland has that position nailed down. I agree with that one, actually, spot on. Bobby says, hi Bobby, hope you're doing well. Underground says that on the pitch, referees are told not to use the screen by the guy in the box. Again, another reason, I forgot to talk about that, actually. Why did the referees in the Premier League not go over and use the screen? Why, when there's a potential red card, like the stamp on Asperqueta by Lascelles, why, when there's a potential penalty, why don't they go over and check the screens? It's happened once this season. How many mistakes has VAR made this season, yet only once has a referee gone over and checked the screen? But they're doing it in the Champions League, and they're making those decisions. If a referee, ultimately, like the decision in the Champions League yesterday between Robert Lewandowski and Marcos Alonso, ultimately, if a referee goes over to the screen and looks at it and goes, I give a yellow first, but I've looked at that and now I deem that as a red. Whether it's a red or not, you could probably argue that this decision yesterday between Lewandowski and Alonso was a little bit, dubious, and maybe that doesn't deserve of a red. But what you can say is, well, the referee's gone over, he's looked at that again on the replay, and he's made that decision in his mind that that's a red card. Now, if you believe that's not a red, that's not VAR's fault then. That's the referee's fault, because he has changed his mind. He's seen it and he has changed his mind. The referee can go over to that screen and go, right, it's a potential check for a red card, but I still think it's a yellow, so I'm keeping it as a yellow. Why? Again, another reason as to why I believe a little theory, whatever it may be, conspiracy theory, whatever, as to why referees in the Premier League are going over to the screen is because they don't want to be held responsible for that decision being made. They're quite happy for the VAR referee to be held responsible because the VAR referee is behind the screen somewhere without a camera on them and isn't likely to receive much criticism for it because they know that the system, VAR itself, is going to receive all the criticism and they just hide behind the shield that is VAR. Wayne says, told not to use the screens by Betfred. Just says, do you think we can still get in the Europa League? We can, but we need to win on Sunday, I believe. Wayne says, Ray Winston's on the phone telling him. Only says, referees should have smartwatches. Lol. Wayne says, don't concern yourself with such things, Joseph. We should expect nothing, and he hopefully pleasantly surprises us. Hopefully, yeah. Wayne says, we haven't got the midfield for such lofty dreams. Wayne says, respect for doing this with the virus, kid. Get well soon. Stay healthy, Blues. Thank you very much. I don't think I've got the virus or a virus. I think I'm just a little bit unwell, but thank you very much. Wayne says, I know Wayne Thomas Bowman doesn't slow Cam down even a smidgen. Union says, what is your favourite BT Sport player? I like Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. Neither. None of them, to be honest with you. I don't watch BT, to be honest. Any former Everton player that goes on there. Tim Cale's been on there a couple of times, so Tim Cale. Good says, from the MLS games that I've been to, I've only had a handful of times that I can say that the referees were absolute crap. There you go, where there's near enough every Everton game you go to, the referee is poor. William says, Michael Owen, Gorty Bud, where you been? And Gord says, at least the Prem let the people at the game, they're doing a VAR check, when in the MLS they don't let people in the stadium know that there's a check going on. William says, like the NBA, Gord, you guys take shit seriously, so refs are generally top class. Fair point. God says, I've been ghosting because I wanted to talk about VAR. There you go. And William says, no one wants to be debating decisions. Get it right. It's not that hard. There you go. Spot on. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. Really, really long one there today. I'm going to see if we can cut it up into little bits as well so you can watch it in little handfuls. I'm not sure if we can do that, but I'm going to see if we can. Anyway, big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel as well, don't forget to subscribe to us. And follow us on Twitter at MightyBluesYT and Instagram MightyBluesEFC as well. Don't forget to join us on Friday 5:30 PM sharp for the live game preview ahead of Sunday's Premier League game against Manchester United. Massive game and massively important that we get a result at Goodison on Sunday, of course. Wormy says, have a good one, guys. Thank you very much, Wormy. If you have enjoyed, like I said, please do hit that like button. Once again, a big thanks to everybody in the live comments. Really do appreciate all of your support. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible. Big thanks for watching. Please do hit that like button if you have enjoyed. Wormy says, when you're back, Cam, 5:30 PM on Friday, so don't forget to join us then. Please leave a like if you have enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.